The US House of Representatives has passed a measure calling on Vice President Mike Pence to invoke the 25th Amendment and remove Donald Trump from office over his role in last week's deadly riot at the US Capitol. The vote is largely symbolic, as Mike Pence has already ruled out using the process. Later today, the chamber will vote on one article of impeachment, charging President Trump with incitement to insurrection. A growing number of House Republicans say they'll join the Democrats in voting to impeach. Mr. Trump, though, remains defiant, denying any responsibility for the violent assault. Hermione G. reports.
An unrepentant Donald Trump has made his first public appearance since the violence at the Capitol, in which 5 people died and dozens of others were injured. The trip was to his promised wall along the Texas-Mexico border, but came as Democrats in Washington make a push to have him removed from office.
Before we begin, I'd like to say that free speech is under assault like never before. The 25th Amendment is of zero risk to me, but will come back to haunt Joe Biden and the Biden administration. As the expression goes, be careful what you wish for. The impeachment hoax is a continuation of the greatest and most vicious witch hunt in the history of our country, and is causing tremendous anger and division and pain, far greater than most people will ever understand, which is very dangerous for the USA, especially at this very tender time.
Activate Section 4 of the 25th Amendment.
Democrats have a two-pronged attack to end Trump's presidency, accusing him of encouraging his supporters to storm the Capitol. House lawmakers have been summoned back to Washington for an impeachment vote after Vice President Mike Pence opposed invoking the 25th Amendment, which could have ousted his boss. Trump is facing a charge of incitement of insurrection. On the criminal side, dozens of people have been charged with firearms-related crimes and other offenses, such as violent entry.
Just yesterday, our office organized a strike force of very senior national security prosecutors and public corruption prosecutors. Their only marching orders from me are to build seditious and conspiracy charges related to the most heinous acts that occurred in the Capitol. And these are significant charges that have felonies with prison terms of up to 20 years.
Security in the Capitol is being tightened up, with thousands of National Guard troops being deployed ahead of President-elect Joe Biden's inauguration next week. The FBI is warning of potential armed protests in Washington, D.C. and many states by Trump loyalists.
Well, let's get the very latest and head to Washington, D.C. to speak to our reporter there, Colin Campbell. Colin, good morning to you. A handful of House Republicans then have so far signalled that they will vote with the Democrats and vote to impeach Donald Trump. Just how symbolic, how significant is that?
Good morning, Rosie. Well, this is really significant. If you think about it, if this goes through, which it is expected to do, this would be the first time that a sitting president, would be impeached twice, meaning that all of the impeachment cases that we have had in U.S. history, half of them would belong to the current president, Donald Trump. So it's pretty significant. Of course, he'll make history books. His picture in the history books will be synonymous, most likely, with impeachment, if you will. So this is pretty much a big deal. And we have a number of Republicans who are signing on for impeachment, joining Democrats. And this is also significant because if you remember, the first impeachment, which dealt with collusion and the Ukraine deal, that went down party lines. That was all Democrats saying that the president should be impeached. Republicans refrained from that. Well, this time it's going to be different. And there won't be as many Republicans as there are Democrats. But so far we have about 6. And we're looking at Liz Cheney from the state of Wyoming. She's the 3rd highest ranking Republican who says she will most likely vote to impeach the president. We have John Katko out of New York. We have Fred Upton, Pete Meyer. They're both out of the state of Michigan. We have Jamie Herrera out of the state of Washington and Adam Kinzinger out of the state of Illinois. So far my count is 6, and that number seems to be growing overnight, Rosie.